talk now to Husam Zomlot, head of the Palestinian mission to the UK. Welcome to you. Thank you for being with us. So what Mr. Netanyahu was saying is there is no role for Hamas in a post-conflict Gaza. Do you agree?
That's not up to Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a prime minister of a country that is in a military occupation of our land. That's not according to me only, that's according to the ruling of the International Court of Justice only last week, that Israel's continuous presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful. All of its illegal settlements are unlawful and must be dismantled. And Netanyahu, this isn't about him and all this pathological lying, it's about the US Congress. To allow him to humiliate millions of American people and turn the Congress into a circus.
Do you think there is a role then for Hamas in running a post-conflict Gaza?
That will be up to the Palestinian people. What matters the most is that we need to uproot the root cause of all this, which is the subjugation of an entire nation for a long time. This is about time we focus on that. Then who governs, who leads is up to the ballot box.
OK, well, that's interesting that you say it's up to the Palestinian people, because there is this agreement that has been brokered by the Chinese this week that Fatah, your organisation, and Hamas have both signed, and it agrees to form an interim national reconciliation government for the occupied West Bank and for Gaza post this conflict. So you've preempted a choice of the Palestinian people?
Not whatsoever.
How so?
Not whatsoever. In the interim, you need one government, central, in charge of the entire territory of Palestine and all of the people of Palestine, Gaza, West Bank, including Jerusalem, that delivers in the day after, that cares about this humanitarian catastrophe, begins the extensive program of reconstruction and rebuilding after Israel destroyed every single city in the Gaza Strip, 70% of homes, 80% of schools, 90% of hospitals, and 100% of universities. And this government will be in charge also of making sure that we prepare for national elections. And having agreed in China, all political factions, that there will be only one legitimate government appointed by the PLO is very good news.
But how is it realistic, how is it conceivable that Hamas, designated a terrorist organisation by the UK government, by many others, would be involved in running Gaza?
No, but the agreement is very clear. The agreement is we will appoint a technocratic government.
Yeah, but even so, I mean...
That Hamas will not object to a one united technocratic government that is in charge of the entire Palestinian territory.
Because they'd be
people.
part of it. Of course they wouldn't object to it.
Well,
according to this agreement, they would be part of it.
No party will be part of it. Fatah will not be part of it. Hamas will not be part of it. Those are going to be professionals that are allowed by the political factions to do the job that the Palestinian people want to do. And this is a matter of Palestinian legitimacy, Victoria. This is not a matter for conversation. You know, all these dubious suggestions that there will be foreign forces taking over Gaza, that there will be partial solutions for Gaza.
I just want to make it clear.
Let me clarify.
If I may clarify for our audience, sir, if I may. The agreement that was reached this week was a declaration brokered by the Chinese that brought Hamas and Fatah and many other Palestinian groups together. They agreed to form an interim national reconciliation government for the West Bank and for Gaza. So Hamas are involved in that. And I'm asking you, how is that realistic in any way? How would you get any support from the Americans, from other Arab countries, in terms of rebuilding Gaza, which, as you rightly say, has been decimated?
Well, number one, we have a legitimate system, political system. It's the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO. It's the umbrella that represents all Palestinians.
Yes.
And not one Palestinian challenges the legitimacy of that organization, which I represent here in London, and I used to represent in Washington.
But answer the point.
This is the global.
Hamas.
So the PLO is in charge of representing the Palestinian people and of forming a government that is in charge of the entire territory. There is already a government that was formed only 2 months ago. What happened in Beijing was just telling the world that political factions in Palestine are absolutely ready to allow for a Palestinian legitimate government to take over the entire territory, to shield us from all these dubious ideas that there will be other alternatives. There is no other alternative except one Palestinian government that is functioning under the idea of establishing a Palestinian state in the entire territory.
Right. So even though the International Criminal Court accuses Hamas of war crimes, yes, they also accuse Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's defense minister.
They first accused Benjamin Netanyahu
of war crimes too. So you would be willing to work with Hamas? That's what you're saying today.
Victoria, for many years it was Netanyahu who was feeding the division, and it was Netanyahu who was allowing funding for Hamas, thinking that that will maintain the fragmentation and will block the emergence of a Palestinian state. That's number one. Number two, for all these years, it's Netanyahu and the US, sometimes even the UK, saying, who should we talk to? The problem is Palestinians are not united. And then when we go and come up with a political vision that allows for a technocratic government, then the question becomes, how do you allow Hamas?
Which you still haven't answered yet, sir.
Our unity as a people, the unity of our political system is paramount for the cause of peace and for the cause of establishing a two-state solution that the UK and US always espouse.
I want to ask you about the more than 100 Israeli hostages that are still being held captive by Hamas. They have to be released now, don't they, for there to be any chance of peace at some point?
As Alicia just said, a deal is on the table for many, many months. And as you just heard from the US Vice President, Kamala Harris, only 2 days ago, that the deal is on the table and Netanyahu must seize it, i.e. Israel's strongest, closest ally is telling us and Netanyahu it's in Israel's court.
And Hamas needs to seize it too.
I think according to the mediators, now Israel must decide, because the deal has been offered to Israel, whereby the first phase will release all the civilian hostages. There will be exchange. And remember, Victoria, and we need to remember, we have hostages. Israel took more than 4,400 only from the West Bank since the 7th of October, without charge, without trial. The situation in Israeli prisons for Palestinians is simply unimaginable. The torture, the murder, the starvation of the prisoners, of the hostages. They should not be called prisoners, of the hostages. So there will be a deal. I think we are prepared for that. But the one thing that's stopping us is Netanyahu's personal calculation. He knows once a deal is done, he's done. And this whole idea that we are after not Hamas, but the Palestinian people. That's why they are after the shelter houses, UN. They are no longer bombing cities because they run out of targets. They're bombing people hiding in shelters. It's about the Palestinian people and the extermination of the Palestinian people.
Thank you very much for talking to our audience this morning. Thank you. Thank you.